Welcome to Manchester Art Gallery. You see before you the pop-up orchard in front of Manchester Art Gallery that is celebrating the launch of River of Flowers Manchester, which is the first River of Flowers in Manchester. It's also working in collaboration with the Chelsea Fringe Festival, so it's the first ever event associated with the Chelsea Fringe in Manchester. We are working with partners across the city who are Avenues and Alleyways in Rusholme, Moss Cider Project, Whitworth Park, Platt Fields and the Anchor Coffee House in Rusholme, where we're creating a flight path for urban pollinators and forage for all the beehives that we've got in Manchester, including the 2 beehives that we have on the roof of Manchester Art Gallery and the beehive on the roof of Manchester Museum, and hives that will be built in the Whitworth Park when they reopen in 2014.
The River of Flowers Manchester is a trail of wildflowers which the community creates in a city, and it forms a foraging and habitat trail for our pollinators, which at the moment are in trouble, our bees and a lot of our wild pollinators such as moths and butterflies. And this has been funded by Grow Wild UK. It's an initiative led by the Royal Botanical Gardens at Kew, and it's had a huge, wonderful millions, 10.5 millions funding from the big lottery. And Grow Wild are looking at different communities growing wildflowers in their gardens, in community gardens, in schools, in lots of different places, to encourage everyone, even window boxes, to encourage people to grow wildflowers for those wonderful pollinators. And it's also been funded by, quite appropriately, by Artist Project Earth, which is a collective of artists, musicians, actors, all manner of artists who are trying to mitigate the effects of climate change. And of course, growing wild, greening a city and growing wildflowers helps do that. Just in the fact that plants soak up water and cool a city down. So that's basically what is happening here. We've got initiatives funding this great project, which is then going from the city centre out to the rest of the community.
Oh, hi, my name's Vinny. I work for the Grow Wild campaign at Kew Gardens, UK wide campaign. You can see what's happening with Grow Wild. It's a fantastic day here today in front of the Art Gallery at Manchester, planting beautiful native crabapple trees with wildflower seeds being planted around them. And that's really the message from Kew Gardens and the Grow Wild Fund. We want people to be inspired and get involved in planting and sowing our beautiful native wildflower species all over the UK. Our main challenge is getting young people, 12 to 25-year-olds, involved, as well as people across the whole UK. We're doing some inspiring things, creating community sites and creating flagship sites in each country of the UK. And we'll be transforming spaces and places for people to benefit them for the remainder of their lives.
This is a small teasel, Dipsacus pilosus, and Dipsacus is related to the Greek for thirst, and that's one of the reasons that it's called that, is because it has a rosette in a cup-like shape that fills with water, and it drowns any sap-sucking insects, so that's quite useful for the small teasel. It's called small because it has a smaller head than the usual teasel. But what's special about this plant in Manchester is that from this came Dipsacus fallorum, which has a very natural comb, and that combs textiles, and of course Manchester is a textile city, and it combs and raises the nap on textiles. So think of the cloth on billiard ball tables, or the coverings of tennis balls, the little felts that you find inside pianos, and guardsmen's uniforms. They're all raised nap from a natural comb from a plant that's derived from this one, the small teasel. This is wild carrot, and it's sometimes called Queen Anne's lace. It is an umbelliferaceae. It's now called Apiaceae, but they have umbels or umbrella-like plants. And cow parsley is an example. Now, this one is called Queen Anne's lace because when it comes out, it's a wonderful frothy white-flowered plant, in the shape of an umbrella. And in the centre is one reddy pink flower. And that's where Queen Anne was supposed to have pricked her finger. We're also planting plug plants instead of the big plants in different places in the understory. And this is oxeye daisy. Oxeye because a very large daisy, presumably the size of an ox's eye, I haven't measured, but it's called Leucanthemum vulgare. Vulgare is something that's used for something that's pretty common. Vulgare, vulgaris, officinalis. And this is Leucanthemum, leuca, I think is the Latin for white. Again, another all-white plant, beautiful oxeye daisy. I think there is a story about King Henry VIII taking oxeye daisy for his gout. This is white campion, as opposed to red campion. It's probably the better known of the campions. It's Silene latifolia, sometimes called Silene alba. What's special about white campion is that it's pollinated by night-flying insects. So night-flying butterflies, which there are, and night-flying moths. And there are day-flying moths, but the night-flying ones. And that's because it becomes scented at night and not in the day. And I placed it here on the end, under this tree at the very end of this grove of wild crabapples. There's a little bit more shade here. It likes a bit of shade. It's actually pollinated by very similar plants, very similar pollinators to the, say, the pollinators that pollinate red campion. This is Achillea millefolium, which is yarrow, and it's called millifoil or millefolium because it's 1,000 leaves, and as you can see, lots and lots of lovely feathery bits to the leaves. It's another plant like wild carrot, attracting flies, hoverflies, and parasitic wasps, ladybirds and lacewings. So attracting natural pest controllers for your garden. And every allotment and every garden should have this wonderful plant. It actually was used in days of scything to staunch blood. So the scythers would, if they cut themselves accidentally, would use this plant. And also it's sometimes called nosewort because they put it up your nose if you've got a nosebleed. Well, this is the last wildflower, and it's poppy. It's very, I would say, appropriate for this year, as it represents the First World War. But also, it is the only non-white plant that are going in these planters. Even the crabapple flowers start off as white, although they become tinged with pink. So the poppies are going to appear. So come down to the Manchester Art Gallery, have a look at the orchard, because it's going to put on a performance for you. The flowers are going to grow. The different types of white flowers are also going to be put into Whitworth Park, and these little poppies are going to be popping up. So the pop-up orchard is going to have popping up poppies, and you can see where they pop up. They'll be popping up at different times, showing that plants, trees, wildflowers can put on a wonderful performance for people outside the Manchester Art Gallery. First ever pop-up orchard for the Chelsea Fringe Festival in Manchester, and the first ever River of Flowers in Manchester started here.